Today, I'm giving you 5 simple tips that'll help you grill a steak so good you won't miss the steakhouse. Step 1 of cooking the best steak is choosing one of the best steaks that you can find. First and foremost, we are choosing to cook ribeyes today. If you guys like a New York strip, if you guys like a tenderloin, that's completely fine. But one of the most important things that you're looking for is going to be the marbling within your steak. Now you can see that there's fat on the outside of this ribeye and also some that's running through. This fat right here actually separates this spinalis from the eye of this ribeye, and that's not the fat that we're looking for when we tell you that we're looking for marbling. We're looking for the fat that's actually running through the red parts of this meat. That's intramuscular, and that right there is where you're going to get your flavor. The other thing that I'm looking for on these ribeyes is the thickness. I want at least 1 inch to 1.25 inches, and the thinner the steak, the harder it's going to be to nail your doneness, and it makes it just about impossible if your steak is too thin. Now, I do like a thin steak for dinner every once in a while, but when I'm looking to nail it perfectly, I'm looking for something around that 1 inch to 1.25 inches. Now, in a perfect world, I would have 1.25 inch ribeye, and I would have a perfect spinalis that has a tri-heart. The tri-heart is closer to the chuck side of this ribeye, and it just gives you a great spinalis and a perfect bite all the way through. But when you're choosing steaks at the grocery store, you won't always find a unicorn, and these are also going to turn out great. Tip number 2 would be to make sure you take your steaks out of the refrigerator at least 1 hour before you're ready to cook them. Now, I took these steaks out an hour ago from my refrigerator, and the second thing that we want to do is pat these dry. Moisture is your steak's worst enemy, and it will not allow you to get the optimal crust that you're looking for whenever you're cooking these at home. So we're going to pat everything dry, flip the steaks over, make sure both sides are completely dry. If you have any moisture on your surface that you're getting these ready on, you also want to make sure that that's completely dry as well. Now, this next step is really important. We're going to salt our steaks, and we're going to salt them heavily just to make sure that we can draw some moisture out of that meat. When you put salt on your steak, it's going to start drawing moisture out of this meat. That's why here in about 10 or so minutes, you're going to see that this steak looks really wet on top, and that's not when you want to put this steak on your grill. That moisture would have to evaporate somewhere, and it's going to make for a less optimal crust. After another 45 minutes or so, that salt will actually reabsorb back into those moisture particles, and it's going to make for an even drier surface than before. Now we're going to flip the steaks over and do the same exact thing to the backside. Any moisture that I see on top of this steak, I'm going to go ahead and pat it dry again, just to make sure we have the driest surface as possible. And if you guys wanted to use a salty AP rub, right now is the perfect time to do it. We have our own, which is called That Base, but to show you guys and stay neutral on how to make a perfect steak, we just wanted to use sea salt today. Now that the steaks are salted, we're just going to let these sit for the next 45 minutes to an hour. We're waiting for that osmosis to happen on these steaks, moisture to come out, and then reabsorb back into the steaks and get a really dry steak before it's ready to cook. It's been right at 1 hour since we seasoned our steaks with salt. You can see the exterior is extremely dry, and now is where you can add some pepper or some coarse seasonings just to make sure that you get a nice texture on this steak. Today, I'll be using Killer Hog Steak Rub. It's my absolute favorite. I love using That Base and steak rub on any steak. It's going to make it perfect. And we're just going to go ahead and season all over top of these steaks. Put as little or as much as you want. I feel like that's a good coating for me. Pat your seasoning in, flip it over, and do the same exact thing to the backside. Now we're outside at the Weber kettle. I have a chimney full of Royal Oak briquettes, and we're going to set up a 2-zone fire today. We've talked about a 2-zone fire before, and all this does is it allows me to have 2 cooking zones. I have my hot zone and I have my cool zone. If anything ever gets out of control in my hot zone, I can always drag meats to my cool zone if there's ever any flare-ups. I do not have to worry about burning any of my food. The same applies for these steaks. Grate on. Now we'll put our lid on, and we like to let the grill preheat for the next 3 to 5 minutes. And for tip 3, which may be very controversial, we're going to consistently flip our steak the whole time we're cooking. The goal here is to get as even of a cook as possible. The more you flip the steak, the easier it is to get a wall-to-wall medium rare or rare or whatever you're looking for. So every 15 seconds or so, we're just gonna grab this steak and we're gonna turn it over. I owe it to Arnie Tex and Jess Prowse for teaching me this method, because typically in the past, I used to flip it one time and think that that was perfect, but I really do prefer the results when you just keep flipping or use the flippity flip method. Another 15 seconds. You can see even though we're flipping these steaks consistently, we're getting a really, really nice and even crust, and we're not burning anything yet. I talked about 2-zone fire. If you guys need to in a situation like this where you're getting some flare-ups, you can spin this grate and you can let everything relax for just a few seconds. That's the benefit of that 2-zone fire. Go ahead and flip this back over. And then we can spin the grate right back over those coals. The other benefit here is you get the crust exactly the way that you want. Everybody here in my family likes it a little bit differently. I like more of a crust, as does my wife, but my kids don't like it too much, so sometimes we have to cook these a little bit differently. And just about a minute and 30 seconds later, we're completely done searing these steaks, and we can now keep these indirect. And tip number 4 is going to be to have a really good instant read thermometer. This is a ThermoWorks ThermoPin. It's the best on the market, and this is going to allow me to see where I'm at with my temps. You can see we're already at 121 degrees. This is the one that's for me. I'm already probing right at 124 degrees, 125 degrees. I prefer my steak a little more rare. It's time to take this off. Tip number 5 is to rest your steak. And today we're resting it with A1 butter. We love this A1 butter. If you guys don't like it, I highly recommend at least some sort of compound butter, but you want to make sure that you are resting your steak. This allows the juices to redistribute back into this steak, and all those juices will remain inside the steak and not on your cutting board. And we aren't going to touch these steaks for the next 10 minutes. We picked the perfect steak, we seasoned it the right way, we consistently flipped it, we had a quality meat thermometer, and then we let it rest. Now let's see how we did. We absolutely nailed the steak, and of course now it's time to take a bite. There's not very many things in the world that are better than a good ribeye steak, and this one is cooked to perfection. So soft and tender, perfectly cooked, extremely juicy, salty all the way through, has a perfect texture on the crust, nothing is burnt. This was just absolutely nailed. If you follow these 5 tips, you too will make a perfect steak every single time when you're cooking in your backyard. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one. I don't even know what I just looked at that way.